Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and a lovely New Year. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. So today we have a very special guest called Mitali. So welcome, Mitali.
Thank you for having me, Luna.
You are so welcome. Thank you for joining us. So let's get stuck in with where you're based, how old you are, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm based in Gateshead in the northeast of England. I am 43 years old. And God, I feel like I'm on blind date. You're too young to remember blind dates, Joe. That's how they used to.
No, I'm not. I
I
love that show.
Bring it back. Yeah, and I'm a vegan book coach and publisher. So I help vegan authors, or I mean, some of my authors are not vegan, some of them are on their way to becoming vegan, but they identify themselves as, entrepreneurs who are, have a sustainable business, or they're a B corporation, or basically I seem to have an affinity with working with people within business who feel the need to do something good in the world as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I've always, I don't know. I think we've got this belief that business is all evil, like money is the root of all evil, and all that kind of thing. And it sure can be. I mean, there are, some huge corporations out there that are doing terrible things to the planet. Whether it's environmentally, whether it's to animals, whether it's to indigenous populations of humans, there's horrible things happening. But there's also businesses out there that are trying to rectify that. And I really want to highlight those people, because I've always believed that, making money and being a business owner does not mean you have to exploit. The two things are not,
100%.
You can do really well as a business owner, you can thrive as a business and be doing the right thing. So I help those people become published authors.
That sounds wonderful. So have you written a book yourself?
Yes, I have. It's there.
Tell us about your book.
So the Freedom Master Plan is, well, I always, when people say, why did you write a book? I say, well, the first reason is you kind of have to, because I always say a book coach without a book is like a dentist with bad teeth. You'd just be like, stay the hell away from my teeth. If your dentist had bad teeth, you just think, if you can't even look after your own teeth properly, then I don't want you anywhere near mine. It's kind of the same thing. I'm always dubious whenever I see a book coach. I say, okay, where's your book? Can I go and buy your book? Oh, I haven't written a book. I teach others to write books. Like, okay, but you should have a book as well. I need to know that you can do what you say you do. So the first reason is purely for self-promotion reasons. If I'm going to be a book publisher, I need to have a book out there that showcases what I can do. And the other reason was when I speak to a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs mainly, I rarely meet anybody, Luna, who says they don't want to write a book. I might meet like one or two people a year who says, oh yeah, absolutely don't write a book. Nearly everyone I meet does want to write a book. Yeah, lots of people want to write a book. They like the idea of having a book with their name on Amazon, having it on the shelf like I've got it on mine. And, they really love it. They get a kick out of it. But they're just not willing to do the work involved to write a book. So it always just becomes this pipe dream. It's like, yeah, I'd like to, but they never get round to doing it. I remember reading somewhere, where was it? I think it was in Forbes, that said, somewhere along the lines of 68, I think it was 68 or 69% of people want to write a book at some point in their life. And yet less than 1% of people actually do it,
That's incredible,
so
isn't it?
the dream and the steps taken to make a reality of the opposite sides of the of the room. And the thing that kept, when I was researching this, when I was researching what to write for my book, the thing that kept coming back to, when I was interviewing people who really wanted to write a book but still hadn't, down 7 years down the line, still they haven't written a book. And I always say, okay, well, what's the real reason why you've not written a book? And the typical excuses first come up, you know, time and money and that kind of thing. But I always say when something's really worth it, you find the time and you find the money.
100%.
So those are just excuses. So what's really going on? And when I sort of chipped away with a lot of people, I realized the real reason was they just thought, is it worth my time and money to do a book? Because, you know, on the one hand, they quite like the idea of being an author. But on the other hand, they had no idea, well, how do I market this book? What do I do with this book? You know, and that's what was really stopping them. They just were scared of what kind of return on investment, if any, they're going to get from this book. So what I did was, I used to be a ghostwriter before I started teaching people how to write books. I was writing books. I've written 7 books previous to my own book, so 8 books in total.
Nice.
And the first 7 were as a ghostwriter, and all 7 of those clients have used their book to build these huge businesses. And that's what they did. They just leveraged their book so well. So my book, The Freedom Master Plan, is all about how to use a book to build your business. So, you know, you use your book to free yourself from constantly selling, because no one likes selling, no one likes doing sales calls. And no one does. Everyone's like, oh God, sales call. You know, you start getting anxious, and I hate them, by the way. I don't do them. And what I learned from my clients who I'd written books for is they use their books to sell for them. So what they do is, well, as soon as they've got, you know, a prospective new client, they send a copy of their book out and they just say, okay, you know, read this. Or if they've got a particularly long book, they may even go through and highlight certain passages and say, just read those passages because they're more pertinent to that particular client. And they always make sure someone isn't able to book in the following day or later this week. So they set up their calendar so you can only book in 2 weeks in advance, and it gives that person the time to read the book. What ends up happening is the book does the selling for them. So by the time they come onto the phone call with them, it's a case of dotting I's and crossing the T's, and usually that person becomes a client. So it's wonderful. It's how to get freedom from sales, how to get freedom from terrible clients. I've suffered from that before, you know, as a ghostwriter and a copywriter previously. I've had some amazing clients and had some terrible clients, and my book clients showed me how they use their book to weed out bad clients, so they never take them on, so they only have great clients. So there's all these tips and strategies in this book. And what my book is designed is to give you an explosion of ideas of what you can do with your book once you've written it. And I found that it really has helped people. Now, there's been a number of my students who said, I always wanted to write a book, but I realize now I've been dragging my feet because I just wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. You know, once I've written it, what the hell do I do with it? But I've read your book now, and I've got a list as long as my arm of all the things I'm going to do with my book.
Oh, that's incredible.
Because it's all case study based. That's not just theory. It's all, I literally tell you exactly what my 7 clients did with their books, like what strategies they use to build their business. So you can just read it and go, oh, that'll work for my business. I can do that, and I can do that, and I can do that. And you can just create a list of your own strategies that you want to do. And I've just found that really helps people, because as soon as they know what they can do, suddenly now they find the time and the money to do it, because now they can see it. You know, their entrepreneurial brain lights up and they go, oh, I can do that in my business. And then they want to do it.
And inspiration's such a big thing, isn't it?
It's huge, because I mean, when you get a book coach like me, we will make book coaches, the whole point of a good book coach is we will make the process as step by step and as easy as possible, so you don't get that, oh my God, overwhelmed feeling at the beginning, because, you know, you're just thinking, how the hell is this book coming together? However, I mean, we're not going to do the work for you. You know, you still have to write the book. So it's an undertaking. It's probably going to be the longest document you've ever written in your life, bar if you've done a PhD. Sometimes a PhD can end up becoming almost, you know, I've seen PhD reports which are 50,000 words. That's a book, basically. So maybe if you've done a PhD or you've written a book previously, then you've written a long document. If you haven't done those things, then the chances are you've never written anything more than maybe a few thousand words in your life, whereas the average book is 30 to 60,000 words. It's a lot of words. So you have to be motivated. You've got to see the end line. You've got to be able to see your goal and be excited about it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs love the idea of becoming an author, but they can't really visualize the end goal. Like how is their life going to look like? What is their business going to look like when they become a published author? And hopefully when they read my book, it now becomes solid. They're like, I can see exactly what I'm going to do with my book.
Oh, it sounds awesome. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Changing lives. I love it.
Exactly.
So let's talk about your vegan journey. So when was it that you started your journey, and what was it that got you there?
Oh gosh, I think the start of my journey will probably be around about 2010. Yeah, 2010, or maybe even earlier. Just this, well, basically in 2010, this fur baby turned up in my life. I didn't even choose it. I was ill that day. So my family went off and went to the rescue shelter and brought back this little tabby. And she had just had a profound effect on me. We've had pets before. I remember having a couple of budgies when we were kids, but I think I was too young to really take in, what they were. And as when Isha came into my life, I just started to see this sentience that I didn't know. I don't think we're led to believe that animals have. We'd rather not believe. It's easier for us not to believe, because then it's easier for us to do the things that we do.
Yeah.
I've always said that the one thing I would love to remove, when you have that, if you could have one wish, what would you wish for?
Yeah.
And barring all selfish things like I want a yacht or something like that, if I had to be altruistic, I'd always say the one thing I wish is I wish that overnight human beings aren't able to objectify, because I do believe that is the core of every single crime, from the tiniest of crimes such as shoplifting to the huge disgusting crimes, like human trafficking and that kind of thing. It all starts with objectification. When you see that person in front of you as a living, breathing being that loves and hurts and has emotions just like you can't really do anything, can you? You're just powerless to do anything in front of that. But as soon as you're able to reduce that being down to a thing that doesn't really feel or doesn't, then you can do all sorts of things. So I didn't realize that animals had that much sentience. I just kind of thought like just dumb things, and they're cute. Some of them are cute, some of them aren't, and that was it. And then having Isha in my life and seeing how much she gets and understands what's happening in the family, who's upset. It's her job to figure out who's not doing that so well that day, and she'll go and spend time with that person specifically. She does. Very, very sentient. And then finding out, the wonders of the internet, you're allowed to just research whenever you want now. And then finding out that cats don't even make it in the top 20 of intelligent animals. They're quite dumb.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, dogs are. I think dogs come as, I believe
they're like
they're
fourth,
the 11th.
aren't they? Oh, okay.
No, the 11th. Believe it or not, I think it's 11th. I mean, obviously, you have to remember, you go to one place on Google and
it's all different, isn't it?
So, maybe the one that you saw, it was fourth. I don't know. The one that I saw, it was 11th, I believe, for dogs. And guess what came ahead of dogs, number 10?
Pigs.
You just feel sick. You're just like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we, dogs we love and we call them our babies, and yet there's these beings who are slightly more intelligent. Dogs means they have more awareness than dogs, and far more awareness than a cat, by the way, because in this study that I read, cats didn't even make the top 20. They didn't even make the top. Didn't make the cut, bless them. So it just kind of makes, and it took time. It wasn't like Isha turned into life and that was it, I'm a vegan. It didn't happen that way. I think it took 3 or 4 years. I went down that route of that we all go down. I'll buy from ethical farms. So I did that for about 2-3 years. I think we've all been there. We'll just buy from ethical farms. And then the slow realization that there is no such thing as ethical. I mean, there's slightly better farms than other farms.
Yeah.
But I mean, now whenever anybody says they're doing the whole ethical thing, I always say, I appreciate you doing that. And it's a step in the right direction. Absolutely. But I mean, do you agree that there is such a thing as ethical racism or ethical homophobia? And like, oh God, no, it's just wrong. There you go.
That's interesting. The last person I spoke to talked about speciesism in comparison to racism and that as well. And it really made me,
I think it's huge. It's something I talk a lot about. A lot of my tweets are, sometimes I get trolls, which will happen. But I do, you know, talk about that. I think specifically as being a woman of color as well, I think it hits home with a lot of people, because I do see it. I do see it as it is on the same level as racism, as sexism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia.
Yeah,
all those things. It's all those things, because all of those things are an attempt to reduce a being down to just one thing. So either you're just the color of your skin, or you're just your gender, or what gender you identify with, or your sexual orientation. It's the same with animals. You know, we're reducing them down to pet, food, something I can hunt for rich people. You're just categorizing them in the same way you try and stereotype people, and it doesn't work, and you shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I think it's the next big thing. It's the next big thing that we're going to talk about.
I think so too.
Yeah,
definitely. And obviously, like all of those things too, they're taking so much time, you know. And once upon a time, just like speciesism, it was okay to be racist. Like everybody was racist. So it's like the same journey pretty much too, isn't it?
I would actually advise, if you've got some time at some point, Luna, this week, Google sort of just put in old reports of slavery abolitionists, the conversations between abolitionists and the Deep South, and you'll pull up, I mean, Google has loads of these because they're now in the public domain because they're so old. And you'll see all these letters back and forth from the South and the abolitionist North, and just read them, and then just basically in your head, remove the word black, or they do use words like Negroes and still stuff then, and just put in pig or put in cow, and you'll find it all works. It all makes sense. It's exactly the same thing. You find there's all these letters from cotton farming owners in the South who are justifying why they need these slaves, and how it's in the slaves' best interest that they remain slaves, and that they don't know any better. So we're actually looking after them. And you just go, oh my God, that's exactly when you hear people talking about the reason to carry on farming animals and eat them. The words are exact. You can literally just miss out the words for black, slave, and just import in animals, and it still reads well and it works. It's chilling. It's really chilling.
I can imagine. That's powerful. So audience, there's a little task for you as well. So what do you think it was exactly that, because obviously most people, this is probably one of the biggest problems that we have as society, is most people will recognize that there's sentience in their pets, but they don't have the same view as for farm animals. So what was it for you, do you think, that made you realize that this was the same for all of them?
I think you know what you just said before, it's like they don't see it. It's not that they don't see it, they do see it. I mean, I maybe I'm being generous here, but I actually have faith in the average human being out there. You know, they're not that stupid. They're not that stupid. They are aware. There is something in the back of their mind that goes, hang on a minute. You're like, that's not right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm loving this animal. It is there. It's always there in the back of the mind. But
subconsciously, for sure.
I'm sure it's there.
I'm talking about consciously though. Like,
I don't think they want to know. I don't think they want to know. I think what happened for me is that I just couldn't ignore it. And it will happen, you know, everything takes time to come to consciousness. Like I say, you know, I just used that example before of, you know, just over 100 years ago, where you had these slave owners justifying why they should keep their slaves.
Yeah.
And it's so easy now in 19, sort of, 100 years later, or more than 100 years later, it's so easy now to be like, oh my God, they were so evil. But they weren't. I don't believe that every slave owner was evil. They were just of their time. And in the same way that people don't want to make that link between their pets and the animals that they're eating, they were just not making that link. Black people or people of color were these lesser beings that they were almost doing a favor, and in the same way you kept pigs and you kept chickens and you had slaves. That was just how it was. And it was only took time and debate and arguing and fights and bloodshed as well, for things to bubble up into the consciousness, for people to go, actually, they are just like us. How are we able to do this sort of thing? This, and it takes time. Same thing with, it's easy to believe that all men are evil and they just want to subjugate women, and that's why it took us so long to get the vote, and we're still fighting for equality. And it's so easy to believe that. And yet there's a small minority of them who are, I won't use the word, starts with C, ends with unt. Some of them are awful. But that's a tiny minority. Do I think the average guy has any ill feeling or harm towards women? No, he doesn't. Chances are he just doesn't know any different. So when he's being overbearing and mansplaining and expecting you to do what he wants you to do, in his head, he's helping you out. He just doesn't realize. It's like, no, that you're clipping my wings here. And it just doesn't realize. My dad, bless him, sometimes would be, he comes from a generation where he just wanted to do things for the women in his life. And sometimes he would clip my wings. I'd be like, no, Dad, but he wasn't doing it from a place of, oh, she's stupid.
Yeah.
She's a lesser being. I'll just do it for her. It wasn't coming from that. It was coming from just feeling that, well, that this is what I'm meant to do. That is my job as a man, to be there for the women in my life and help them. And it's only from debates and, talking about it, there's a lifting of consciousness and overall lifting, when you go, actually, they can do just as much, if not better than we can.
Yeah.
We should let them get on with it, But that comes from it. So it will happen. There is more talk about speciesism. The reason why I think a lot of people don't want to do it, because it's painful. Whenever there's any kind of room for growth, just before the growth happens, there's a period of painfulness. It just is. I've never seen anybody grow just because it's like, oh, I just fancied growing as a human being. It's not fun actually growing.
I agree.
It's much more fun.
I agree 100%.
Sit in your, this is how I see the world, and everything is running tickety-boo, and my brain doesn't have to think. That is where it's comfortable. Having to change and think about doing things differently is annoying, and it's boring, and you don't want to do it. So there's a period of painfulness where you have to go through before you get that period of growth. And I really do think that is, and that's why I'm quite happy when I get, trolls who get upset because I'm linking, speciesism to racism and homophobia and transphobia and things like that, because it's painful. It's painful when it's brought to them. I've especially sometimes I think I cut close to the bone, especially if that person is from either ethnic minority, or they are transgender, or they're homosexual or bisexual, or part of the LGBTQ plus community. And sometimes because it affronts them, because they know that usually they've been through a lot themselves. So then it's like, oh, you're reducing it down to, and it's like, I'm not reducing anything. I actually appreciate what you've been through. So being somebody who's gone through what it feels like to be reduced down to just your sexual preferences, or just your gender, or whatever gender you identify as, shouldn't you have more understanding of what these animals are going through? They didn't choose to be pet, food, hunted animal. They didn't choose that. They're just trying to get on with their lives,
Exactly. I think you raise a very powerful point. Like, it's a good take for people to think about. So thank you for raising that. So going back to family, when you did go vegan, what was the reaction or response that you got from your family and friends?
I think first they just thought it's a fad. They thought it was some sort of health fad or something like that. That's another thing. A lot of people do kind of stick veganism in the same bracket as gluten free or lactose free. And it's like, it's got nothing to do with
I know.
food. Is just one aspect. You know, it's usually what most vegans start with, but then, you know, as soon as you start on the journey, then you start looking around you and you realize, oh my God, there's clothes, there's home furnishings, there's so much that's using, you know, animal parts, and, you know, and you want to start getting rid of it. It starts to feel dirty. So it encompasses so much more than diet. But yeah, because a lot of people are misinformed, they just kind of thought it was like some sort of fad diet. And then after about a year, they were like, oh God, she's sticking with it then. So they weren't, you know, I mean, I still am the only vegan in my family, but I have noticed, you know, there's certainly eating more stuff that just happens to be vegan. So that's quite good. I think that's happening in general now. I'm part of a wonderful collective of vegan entrepreneurs called Vegan Business Tribe. I'd go and check them out.
Oh yeah, I definitely will.
Brilliant. They're a collective. What they do is it's a membership, and you know, we meet and we network, and there's loads going on. Go and check them out. They're brilliant. You've got David Pannell and Lisa Fox. They're the owners, and together they are Vegan Business Tribe. And it's all, anybody, if you've got a vegan business of any kind, whether it's you sell handmade soaps or food, or whether it's a service, there's, you know, there's a vegan LinkedIn expert in there. There's a vegan food consultant, there's a vegan accountant,
oh wow,
you know, vegan accountant, I mean anything. And obviously with me,
who
vegan
knew?
book coach and publisher.
Incredible.
It's a whole group, and it's wonderful because it's nice to be in a group of people where everyone understands our ethics, and we, you know, we're not having to field all those annoying questions. But why isn't it natural to eat meat? I mean, you've got to be in the mood to answer those questions. And sometimes it's nice to have that safe haven where I'm like, no one's going to ask me, but where are you getting your protein from? Again, you know. So it's a lovely place. I'm sure in there they've done a lot of research, David and Lisa, and I'm sure I heard from them that for most vegan food businesses, somewhere between 90% or more, I think it's 91 or 92% of their products are sold to non-vegans.
Oh wow.
So most people are not, who are buying their stuff, are not vegan 100% themselves, but they're slowly moving towards this more vegan plant-based lifestyle. And obviously now with it being veganuary, that's become a thing, you know, everyone knows about veganuary now. So again, and it's people who are not vegan but dipping their toes in, shall we say, which I think is wonderful, because that's how to do it. You know, I agree. You can't shock people into it. And I've noticed that my family are starting to like, oh well, that looks nice, can I have a taste? Yeah, okay, just don't eat all of it because I can't exactly eat your stuff, you know. Okay, that's quite nice, I think I'll go and buy that. And the next thing you know, it's now in their fridge, and I'm thinking, that I didn't buy that, that must be somebody else. So it's taking time, but again, it's a gentle process, and it's what I was talking about before, when we assume just because we've been doing something for a long time that it must be right. It actually doesn't make sense. Just because you've been doing something for a long time doesn't make it right, and yet that's just what we believe. So my mum especially just refuses to give up dairy. She doesn't eat meat, she never really has, so she's not bothered about me, but she refuses to give up dairy. She just she's like, no, I have to have my milk, you know. And
it's neurological though, like, because we as human beings, the way our brains work, we will focus on the majority of what's going on, and we'll just automatically think that's truth. That's how our brains work.
Yeah, because she was brought up with milk, you know. She was brought up in Bangladesh. There were cows that were milked, they drank milk, they had milk in their tea. Then she came over to this country, and now you didn't have to go and milk the cows, which is great. You can just have to go to Tesco's. And that was it, you know. And then no one ever really sits there and thinks. And I didn't. I was told that I was, oh my gosh, I was tiny. When I was born, I think I was just over 5 pounds. But apparently, you know, I became pretty much obese. I was obese as a child because I just used to drink like a litre of milk.
Well, that sounds surprising.
You know, I just used to drink it. And I just became huge, you know, and I think it really did affect my teens. I had terrible acne, and you know, I think it really did affect it. And it was only as I started my journey into veganism and starting to peel back the layers, and you start to go, I mean, if you think about it, dairy really is the most insidious thing, because with, you know, with meat or fish or eggs, there's a debate to have. There's the ethics involved in what we're doing with the animals. But I can debate with somebody because there is some redeeming, there are redeeming factors of eating meat and fish and eggs, not the factory farm stuff, obviously, but you know, because it's something that other animals do as well. It is natural. What we're doing with animals is unnatural. But actually, if they were just out in the wild and we were going off and hunting them, there is a debate that actually that probably should happen. Because if you think about it, animals do that. I mean, I only have to watch my cat bring yet another mouse in. And I'm like, you're being fed. We give you all the food that you need. You literally don't need to go and hunt this mouse, and it'll still go and do it. So there's a debate to have about whether, you know, even if we got rid of intensive farming and that kind of thing, should we still eat meat, but just go and hunt for it? You know, so it's out in there's a debate to have. There's literally no debate when it comes to dairy, because no animal does that. No animal looks at the tits of another species and thinks, I'll just squeeze those and I'll have a drink. It doesn't, it's just a very, very weird concept. You know, other animals do eat each other. They eat fish. Fish eat fish. You've got fish that actually eat other fish. You've got animals that steal eggs from another species and eat them. It's all documented, but no animal drinks the milk of another species.
Well, I think there are cases actually, because I've seen pictures and things of, like, in cases of survival, like for example, a cat that's got no mum or nothing in the wild would go and drink from a dog, for example.
Yeah.
So you could have,
Yeah.
you know,
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that, because that I assume you do that with you know, that's why we've got, you know, powdered milk for humans, because some women aren't able to create enough milk for their babies, you know, so there's, you know, powdered milk. And so yeah, of course, but this is like when you're a baby. There's no animal that, once it's no longer a baby,
that's true.
it's just, because why would they? It's like, this is something that's been produced for the young of that species. And I always find it really weird how people get really weirded out about, there was something on recently about this lady who was making rice pudding with her milk.
Oh yeah, I know.
Selling it online.
I
and
found
people
that
were buying
out. I thought
it.
that was funny. Yeah, because I remember.
Sorry, go on.
There was a time, I don't remember when it was. There was a time I wasn't actually vegan at the time. I was vegetarian, but I didn't know what went on in the dairy industry. Like, there was a time in London where somebody decided to make ice cream out of breast milk, and everyone was appalled by it. And
it's like, oh,
in my
brain,
God. I was like, but you drink cow's milk, what's the difference? Like,
exactly.
and
It just goes to show.
Couldn't get it. Yeah.
The cognitive dissonance is crazy. It's sort of like, you're disgusted by something that came from your species because you recognize it as, no, that's for when you're a baby. You shouldn't be drinking that as an adult. And yet it's okay for you to drink something that was designed for the baby of another species.
Yeah.
That's okay to be drinking at 13, 23, 33, 43, 53, 63 years of age.
I know.
Like, how does that make any kind of sense?
It's weird, isn't it? It is weird.
But again, it's only weird because we've both gone down that journey of questioning things. But before that, like I said, as a child, I used to drink almost a litre of milk. Basically, my thing, and no wonder I was obese, was a litre of milk and about 5 or 6 Maryland cookies. And I used to eat that every single day. Well, not the most healthiest of things to eat. So no wonder I ended up becoming obese because of that. So,
and the milk in itself, like, cows are so much bigger than us and they grow much more rapidly than us. So what's in the milk of a cow would be so much more than our body needs. So
exactly, because it wasn't designed
for us. Bigger if you were drinking that much. Like, it makes sense, knowing that.
It's weird. It's weird. It's the one thing I always tell people, and whenever people say, well, what would you say was the first thing? What's the first thing to give up? And most people expect me to say meat. And most people do. They usually start to give up meat, and then the fish goes and the eggs go, and dairy is usually the last thing to go. And I'll say, it depends. I mean, do you do which one you feel you can live without first? Because it's important to get little wins in first, otherwise you get demoralized and you just go straight back.
Exactly.
However, if you're not bothered either way, then I would actually say, for the sake of the animals and for you, dairy, give that up first, because it is natural to eat meat and fish and eggs. Not what we're doing to them. The stuff that we see in our supermarkets isn't natural. There's nothing natural about them. But if you're talking about grass,
somewhat, it's somewhat natural.
So exactly, some natural life.
Because then you've got the argument too of like, this is something that, like, where my brain went is when you look at carnivorous animals, their teeth are nothing like ours. Like, if we were naturally supposed to eat meat, then we would have carnivorous teeth to bite them, so, and we don't. So, and there's been studies to say, like, the frugivore, we're supposed to be frugivores, our teeth will show that we're frugivores, which would mean that we need to eat insects. That's the thing, that if we absolutely have to, it's insects, not the rest.
There's lots of movement in that as well, isn't there? That there's lots of really great companies that are doing their best to create food from insect protein, and saying, that could be a way forward for us to get that protein, and it's usually a much higher quality of protein as well. We're more able to assimilate it than the protein we get from animals anyway. So I've actually been looking into, because I think with dogs, it's been proven that as long as you do it right, you can actually move dogs onto a vegan diet and they will thrive.
And it's the same. No, that's not true. Cats are like it too. It's just dependent on the cat. Like, I did a lot of research in this myself, and I actually...
Okay, tell me more about this, because I've always thought with cats, because they're true carnivores, that it's, they need meat.
It's all about what's like, so there's aspects of meat that they need. So taurine for a cat is really, really important. They need taurine. But with cats, because they are, I suppose, they're much more independent than the dog species, they'll either accept like a plant-based diet, or they'll reject it. And if they reject it, then they cannot survive on it. But if they accept it, they can thrive on it. Like, I found a group on Facebook, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like Cat Vegans or something. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people that have had cats that have been like in a massive state, and like by them giving them plant-based food like carefully, they've thrived. Like, their skin has got better, their fur has improved, they've lived longer. Like,
I'd love to know more about that, because especially with Isha, she's recovering from cancer. So I would have loved to have tried this, but I think I was always scared, because I just thought, first of all, she's a cat, and you get told again the things that you're told. She's a true carnivore. That's what cats are. So they absolutely need meat. So you have that in your ear, and then also the fact that she's recovering from cancer and she's quite frail. So again, that makes me very fearful of changing her onto something.
Understandably. I mean, is that like, because I tried it with my cat. She took to it to start with, but over time she didn't drink. Her issue was she didn't drink enough water, and water is very important in order for it to like absorb properly. So my cat had to revert back to eating meat, but I did it very, very slowly, and she was fed she was on a plant-based diet for about 8 months, and my cat had terrible skin. Like, her hair was falling out, she was really skinny. Like, when I transitioned her over, she was like the healthiest cat that she's ever been because of it. But then unfortunately it just didn't sit right with her, because she wasn't eating enough, drinking enough. So I can see, like, from my own experience, I can see what it can do, like, if the cat would accept it, because we know what cats are like. They're really fussy, aren't they? So if you've got a fussy cat, then really it's probably so you just gotta
well, I'm hoping
little
what
by
I
little,
could do is, there seems to be a number of brands now that are using insect protein for cat food.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Could be that could be an option.
Yeah, definitely. But I definitely say, like, it's worth trying. Like, if you do your research and if you're careful, like, you have to be, you know, around to make
Yes.
sure that they are, you know, they're still eating, they're still drinking, they're still peeing, and because that's the biggest risk, is like them not being able to wee. So you have to watch them, and that's what happened with my cat. But luckily, she was okay.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but my cat had a problem with her wee before I went change her diet anyway, so it was just in her body anyway. So I don't know whether it actually had anything to do with what I was feeding her or not. But
Or
I
maybe
did
well,
make
that's the other thing as well, because when I mean, we've been told the cancer will come back, and there's not much they can do. It's third time round now, and the first thing to go is her bladder. That's going to
oh
be it,
okay
and her kidneys. So they said you will see signs when she's having trouble going
yeah
for a
because
wee.
they'll just like
Yeah, they kind of
tense,
they
or
pull up
they'll
their hind legs,
yeah
don't they? Yeah, and she's starting doing that anyway. So, you know, we had her on antibiotics a couple of weeks ago. So she seems to have coped with it now. But
yeah
yeah, that's a difficult thing. I wouldn't even be able to work out what is it? Is it the diet that's doing that, or
mm,
is this just a consequence of the fact that she doesn't really
yeah
have that much longer to go anyway?
no that's fair
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, it was a hard decision to make, but for me, like, as a, you know, I'm a really, really passionate vegan. And
It's
I got to a
hard.
point that, as
Yeah.
much as I love my cat, and like, I don't, you know, for people that feed their pets meat, like, fair play, like, but for me, I physically just couldn't do it anymore. I
Yeah.
couldn't force myself to go and buy meat knowing where it come from. And
Yeah.
like, also for me as well, it felt a little bit unnatural still, because in the wild a cat wouldn't eat pigs and chicken
No,
and
no, I always find it really weird. I try my best to, when I do buy cat food, I tend to stick to fish
yeah
ones, and at a push I'll go for chicken.
mm,
But anything, because I always kind of think, I kind of look at the size, especially my Isha, because she was the runt of the litter.
yeah
She's so tiny, and then when I kind of visualize a cow or even like a sheep or a pig, just think there's no way Isha would be eating that.
yeah
It's about five
exactly
times to 10 times the size of her. So you've got to think of weight and size as well. You've got to almost try and visualize, and if you can't see your little cat running after a cow and trying to kill it and eat it,
yeah
then it probably shouldn't eat it.
yeah. And also, like, there's the side of too of, like, I mean, I know we have this with our food, like, there's a lot of stuff that's not got nutrition in it because it's just bombarded with chemicals and stuff,
Mhm.
and that is the majority of pet food too.
Oh yeah,
And that was
they
another
even
aspect. I was
even
like,
more
well,
so, Luna, because they don't have, there are reasonably stringent guidelines when it comes to food for human consumption. Hardly any of those guidelines exist for pet
exactly,
food, so it's very, very basic
yeah
because it's just pets.
yeah
They can get away with it more because you have to remember, if things go wrong with us, we've got the wonderful NHS.
yeah
So we can go in, we can have tests done, and then it's like, do you remember, it was like about 10 years ago, there was all these tests done, and in fact they found out that there was horse meat
oh
in
yeah
some foods that was labeled as beef, but it wasn't
yeah
cow meat, it was horse meat. And that was all came from, that's what happens when, with human food for human consumption,
mm,
there are checks in place, and when things go wrong, they do find out. Who's going to check what's inside the pet food?
I know I know. And that for
So
me was kind of like the other bits that swayed me, because I started to become more conscious of what I was putting in my body. And I was
yeah,
like, well, I want to take care of like, for me, my cat was more important than myself. So I was kind of
yeah, I
like,
think all pet
I
owners
want,
feel that way. Yeah.
yeah. So I was just kind of like, that's what swayed me in the end, because I started to think about, well, what's all this crap they're putting in their food anyway? It's not, can't be good for them.
It's
Like,
all the stuff left over. And I remember a friend of mine telling me that she used to work in an abattoir, and she said, she would find tumors. And it's
mm,
actually normal. I mean, if you're going to find tumors in humans, and guess what? You're going to find tumors
yeah,
in,
of course.
adults. And they were just kind of, you kind of just cut it off.
It's
But you didn't,
gross.
and then, I mean, you didn't put the whole tumor in. You tried to cut as much of it out as, obviously. But then there was no guidelines. There wasn't sort of like, it's like, for example, if that was for human for consumption, I assume maybe there isn't. Someone would need to tell me. For human consumption, I assume they would say that if you find, say, it's a chicken and you find it's got a tumor, you have to throw away the whole chicken. I would hope that's what happens.
I would
Fingers
think
crossed.
so.
I
In
don't
this
actually
country,
know,
I would
but
think so
you'd
in this
hope.
country.
But
Yeah.
in pet food, there's no. So what they would do is just like get rid of most of the tumor, but then if bits of tumor went in the food, it's no big.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who's looking?
Sorry, I've
You
just got
know.
to plug in. Running low on back. There we go. Okay, so let's move on to the next question.
Yes.
When you went vegan, what did you struggle transitioning with the most, if anything? What was the hardest thing to give up?
Gosh, because it's been so long now, and it's so easy now that it's difficult for me to remember. But obviously, I went through it.
Yeah.
I'd probably say eggs.
Okay.
Eggs was my sort of go-to food because it was a way for it has a way of filling you up without making you uncomfortably full.
Yeah.
But I'm gluten intolerant, and I don't even need much, just a slice of bread, and my stomach looks like I'm about 4 months pregnant. And then it takes me several hours until it goes flat again and I can feel normal again. I feel heavy, nothing fits well. I would even, do things like, I remember several years ago, no more than several years ago, gosh, I think 2005, 2006, I actually told all my friends and I said, I'm no longer doing the whole going for a meal and then going clubbing things. If you want me to go out with you, you
Choose.
invite me to one or the other, okay? So if you want me there early doors, I'm coming for a meal. I'll come for a meal. I'll eat with you, and then I'm getting a taxi home. If you want me to stay out with you till all hours of the morning, then you guys go and have your meal, and I'll come and meet you at the club, and we'll go clubbing. But the whole sort of dinner and then dancing thing just wasn't working for me because I'll eat, and like I said, not even that much bread or just a little bit of flour in my meal, and my stomach will be so big and so uncomfortable.
Oh,
I'd be so
bless you.
uncomfortable that I didn't want to. You certainly didn't want to dance. I didn't even want to be out. I just wanted to
No,
go home
I
and
can
sleep.
imagine.
And then I discovered eggs, and eggs were just this magical food that had this ability because of the protein in them. They fill you up so you're not hungry, and yet you're never uncomfortably full. You're just nicely, like, I'm nice, I'm fueled up, I'm ready to do whatever activity I need to do. And that was it. So I was a real egg fan, and I had it in the mornings. I was making omelets, yeah. I like scrambled egg. I used to, any way that you can do egg, basically. I poached eggs, hit me with it. I absolutely loved it. So that was a big change for me because it took me a while to find the substitutes I needed. I didn't so much miss egg. That's the key thing. I didn't so much miss egg. I missed what it did for me.
Oh, I see.
As soon
Yeah.
as I removed it, I was starting to feel hungry again, and so then if I have the starch to make up for it, then my stomach felt like lead again, and it's and I've I had to learn what to eat to replace her. And now I have done that. And the main thing I found is I'm a big fan of pumpkin seeds and hemp seeds. And, there's a bowl in the other room. I've always got a bowl going of seeds.
Are you
And
just snacking on them?
yeah. And whenever I go past it, I'll just grab a handful and I'll just, knock them back. And that now has the same effect as eggs. So yeah, it wasn't so
Oh,
much. I
that's
mean, I
good.
did enjoy eggs. I did enjoy the taste, but it wasn't so much I missed eggs, which is why I don't really bother so much with egg substitutes because there are so many great egg substitutes now,
Yeah.
So a lot of people say it's like, well, if you miss eggs, why don't I never see any sort of, the vegan egg substitutes that are available? It's like, because I don't remember. I'm not really bothered about the taste of eggs, although the
Yeah.
taste is nice. It was what they did for me. They were my fail-safe option for fueling up not feeling uncomfortably full, but having the energy to go and do whatever it is that I needed to do. And without that, now I was, I was tied to food and feeling hungry. Well, basically oscillating from being hungry to being uncomfortably full and then
Yeah.
being back hungry again. It's not a nice way to live your life,
No, it doesn't sound fun at all.
So that was the thing for me, eggs.
So what kind of things for you then? Like, if there's any people watching in the audience that are gluten-free and they're not vegan because they're like, oh, well, I can't go vegan because I'm gluten-free. Like, what would you say to them? How do you cope with that?
I mean, I'd love to just, say, oh, it's so easy. It's not. The truth is, it's not easy. But the thing is, you won't be having it easy right now either. Because a lot of people think, oh, that's hard. And it's like, yes, anything worth having in life never is easy. It's just sadly something I learned, in my 20s. And the older I get, the more I realize how true it is. Anything that's worth anything in life is not easily come by. It's something that has to take a lot of time and effort. It's just how it is. But the thing is, your health is your health, and you've got your body and your mind for however long you're going to live. There is no refunds. There's nowhere where you can go and say, oh, I'll just have a different body, thanks. It doesn't work. You can tweak your body, absolutely, whether it's aesthetically or if there's something wrong with you, go to hospital and they will do whatever they need to do. Absolutely, you can tweak, but you are stuck with this for however long you're on this planet. There is no do-over. There's no, I'll go back to the shop and get a brand new one. It doesn't work that way. So yes, is it difficult to transition into a more plant-based diet? Of course it is. It took me several years, but is it worth it? Absolutely, it's worth it. And it's going to be, the older you get, the more apparent it's going to be how worth it is. And my marketing consultant, a wonderful lady called Kathleen Gage, I urge you to go and check her. Everybody's listening to this, go and check Kathleen Gage out from Vegan Visibility. That's her business, and her job is to make vegans more visible, especially vegan entrepreneurs, which is why she's now become a marketing consultant in my business, because there's a lot of synergy. She's a 13-time author, so she's written 13 books, so she beats me with my 8 books. So she knows the power of books when it comes to raising someone's visibility and authority, because people just take published authors seriously in a way they don't take other people seriously. So we've got, a great partnership going now where, I help someone become a published author, and then she can help them to market their book and get it out into the world. So it works really well.
The dream team.
She is. She's. I'm so happy. We met about 6 months ago, and we just saw it turned into like a sickening mutual love relationship. And we're just saying overly nice things about each other to the point where we just thought we need to work together, really. But she is. Gosh, I'm pretty sure she's in this. She must be in her. I think she doesn't look it. That's the thing. She looks like she's in her 50s, but I think she might be even in her 70s. But you look at that woman and the vitality of that woman. She even she had an accident a few months ago where she knocked her head off concrete.
Oh my
so
goodness.
She had to have tests for concussion and bleed on the brain, and everything was absolutely fine, but she broke her wrist, and then it mended within a couple of weeks, and even a doctor said,
wow.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I don't know her exact age, because you don't ask a lady her exact age. I think she's probably in her 70s. And this, the older you get, the more you're going to be so thankful that you went through this maybe it'll take you a year or so of difficulty while you try and figure it out. You're going to be rewarded with so much life and vitality and healing. You really are going to be rewarded. One of my authors at the moment, Bobby, she's just finished writing a book with me, and it's now going through the design process. So we've done the cover, we've now got the book design, the interior design to do, and we're looking to publish the book at the end of January. and it's called Freedom from a Toxic Relationship with Food. And she's had anorexia, bulimia. She's had a terrible
awesome.
time with food, and messages are being told what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat, and all that kind of stuff, and how she's freed herself from all of that.
That's
and
incredible.
Part of that was becoming plant-based, and she is a 100% vegan now.
Go Bobby.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, I'll definitely let you know when the book comes out. It's a fantastic read. But you just see that she's so happy now, the health that she has, the relationship that she has with her family. It's when you look in terms of that, a few months or even a few years of discomfort where you're trying to figure stuff out, like me trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to replace eggs and not have a stomach that's like a lead balloon. It wasn't pleasant, but I'm so glad I did it, because the rewards I'm getting and will continue to get as I get older and older just, is worth it. So I would say, if you're gluten intolerant, first of all, you have my sympathy. I know exactly what it feels like. It's awful, and people who don't have it don't realize. They just don't realize how it literally takes over your life. You plan. You have to plan your day and what you're going to eat, because if you don't do that, you won't be able to do all the things that you expect to do that day. It's that serious. So you have my sympathy. I'm not saying it's easy, going to a plant-based diet, because I understand your thinking, but I use animal products as a substitute, for energy, instead of bread and pasta and things like that. What I would say is, yes, I know it's hard, but do your best. And you're also trying at a time where you have so much more available to you than I did. When I went plant-based, I mean, there's lots of people who didn't even know what vegan was back in 2010. They were like, what is that? I remember one gentleman, I was traveling in France at the time, a notoriously difficult country when it comes to being a vegan. And they really want to stick to their dairy and their meat and that kind of stuff. And I was at a restaurant, and I explained to the waiter that I was vegan. So I pointed to a couple of things that I wanted, which I thought were vegan, but obviously I wanted to be sure that there wasn't any hidden animal ingredients in there. And the waiter went and spoke to the chef, and the chef came out and said, "Oh my gosh, how can I help you?" He thought I was having some sort of adverse reaction or something. He's like, "I need to know." He thought it was like, sort of like a really serious gluten intolerance, something like that. It's like, no, nothing's going to happen to me. But he didn't even know what vegan was. I had to explain what one was. That's not the case now. Even people who hate vegans know what a vegan is now in 2022. So because of that, there's so much more awareness, and there's so many more products out there. So now you can get pasta made from peas, or I even saw pasta at Tesco's recently that was made from, what was it made from? It was beetroot.
Yeah, I've had that. It's so nice.
Is that nice? I haven't even had it.
It's really nice. And there's a spinach one as well I've seen. And that was really nice.
The mind boggles. You just think, but how did that happen?
Yeah.
So there are substitutes now that were not there back in 2010 when I started my journey. And then also, like I said, start looking at seeds and nuts. Especially if you've got like a savory tooth like I have. I definitely have more of a savory tooth than a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
It's actually quite fun. Another another tip, actually, a friend of mine does this. I don't need to do this, but she found it really difficult just eating seeds and nuts, because she's got more of a sweet tooth. And what she does is she melts down her favorite vegan chocolate and just mixes the seeds and nuts in and lets it dry off. So she's got chocolatey seeds and nuts. And then she does the same thing as me, sticks it in a bowl in the middle of a house, and every time she walks past it, just grabs a handful and knocks it back. That's a brilliant way of getting much better, by the way, much more available protein for your body than animal protein. It keeps you full. You're getting your protein. So all of that stupid nonsense of vegans don't get enough protein. No, they do. Rubbish. They absolutely do.
I know.
It's any transition period is always difficult, but just stick at it. Do it step by step. Don't do what I did. I went vegan, and then I failed, and then went back to eating everything. And I did the whole sort of yo-yo thing for about 2-3 years before it all stabilized. Instead, just do what my family are doing. Just, you know, my youngest sister, just when she can, she always sees, oh, is there a vegan version of this? Oh, I'll have that. You know, she drinks oat milk, but she's not vegan, you know, but she drinks oat milk. She doesn't really get on with cow's milk anymore. So it's make the substitutions gradually and slowly work your way there.
Yeah. Have you got any go-tos, like the go-to meals that you have that you really
Sorry,
enjoy?
sorry,
Meals.
go-to meals. But I'm a bit of a cheat reader. I love this subscription service called All Plants. Have you heard of them?
Oh yes, I have. Yeah.
And someone like me who's just, you know, I'm sometimes working 12 hours a day, and then when I'm finished, I have no inclination to be getting into the kitchen and doing anything apart from heating something up, you know. I'm tired. I just want to veg out in front of Netflix now.
Yeah.
So I get meals from them, and they are brilliant. They also have options where you can filter out all the ones with gluten in them. So they've got
that's
30
brilliant.
plus, yeah, so they've got 30 plus meals that are gluten-free. Wonderful for me. So it keeps out all the rest of them. I just get the gluten-free meals, and they're all completely vegan. They're also all handmade. And obviously I'm not gonna say it's as good as you cooking yourself. Nothing
Yeah, of
beats
course.
fresh ingredients and cooking yourself. But if you can't do it like me, if you really, really struggle and it's something that you can only do once or twice a week, you know, I tend to, when I want, I might cook at the weekends, but that's about it. I just don't have time. This is a very close second because they don't use any additives or preservatives. When you get the meals, they come up in this bright yellow box, and it has to be delivered on that day, and you're told to put it straight in the freezer, otherwise it's going to lose the goodness. So, you know, I use that. When I am
That's
cooking,
very good to know, because I wondered about that. I wasn't sure because I haven't used them yet. So that's
I
good
would
to know.
say I would say it's, you know, like I said, if you got to compare like for like, it would be more nutritious if I made those meals myself.
Yeah, of course.
It's a very, very close second. If you look at the back of those, if you look at the back of the packaging for the food that I get from All Plants, everything is stuff that I recognize, that I can pronounce. There's nothing else in there, you know.
That's brilliant. Yeah,
And
that's really
each of the
good.
meals are usually around about 2 out of your 5 a day. So you're getting 2 portions out of your 5 a day just from eating the meal, you know. So that's what I do when I'm cooking. My go-to, gosh, because I don't really cook very often, it's difficult to say, but I would say I make a really, really good, of course, curry. I'm Indian, so I make a really, really good mild curry, a dansak it's called, and I use chicken bites from V-Bites.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, V-Bites, the company owned by Heather Mills, they do a really good chicken substitute that shreds, and the texture is just right for chicken. I don't really have the need to have something in my mouth that has a texture of chicken anymore. It's been so many years. It'll be 10 years soon that I became completely vegan. At the end of this month, actually, it'll be 10 years. So I
Awesome.
no longer need something that has a texture of chicken. But because I'm cooking, I hate cooking for myself. If I'm going to cook, I want to cook and I want people to eat it. And with no other vegans in my family, it needs to be something that they don't go, no, it's not tofu again, is it? So, so I found with V-Bites, they really like it. They're like, oh, this is just like chicken. They love
Win.
it.
Awesome.
A win.
So how would you say for you that veganism has impacted your life?
Everything. It literally informs everything. It's my livelihood now. I mean, I could have become a book coach well, I could have just been a book coach. Most book coaches don't, you know, they don't stipulate that they specifically want to work with vegan authors or people moving towards a more sustainable world or anything like that. You know, they just like, you know, if you've got the money, they'll help you write a book. There you go. And the fact that I specialized within this particular niche, you know, it's my livelihood. And my marketing consultant, or her company's called Vegan Visibility. You know, I'm surrounding myself, you know, my whole business and the friendships that have grown from it are people who are either vegan or certainly more plant-based and moving towards veganism. It informs everything. It informs absolutely everything. I never thought that when I first went on this journey. I thought I was just doing something in my own little way, making a little bit of a difference and not contributing to animal misery and torture. I had no idea that 10 years later I'd be a vegan book publisher and coach, and it's completely changed it. I wouldn't be on the path that I'm at now. I don't even think I'd be a book publisher. I think I would have remained a ghostwriter and a copywriter. I was doing well. I was earning good money. There was no need for me to start teaching people how to write books. There literally was no reason. I remember just thinking, I want to make more of an impact. And I think I remember reading somewhere that, being a vegan is great. You're still doing more than the average person when it comes to other beings, when it comes to the environment and sustainability. But what more could you be doing? What else could you be doing? And constantly thinking about what more you can do. And for me, the next logical step is to empower the vegan entrepreneurs. Because the easier we make it, like I just said before, that if you wanted to become more plant-based in 2022, you're going to have a much easier job now than I did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's because of amazing vegan businesses. That's why. That's the only reason it's easier. There's just so much more vegan food, there's vegan clothing, there's vegan fashion, there's vegan toiletries, the fact that you can now go into Superdrug and literally, choose vegan, and then it'll only show all the products that are vegan. That option wasn't even there a few years ago.
Yeah, I know.
It just wasn't even there. And then people used to do this annoying thing with me when I used to ask them, is this product vegan? So, oh yeah, none of the products tested on animals. That's been outlawed. It's like, that's not the same thing as vegan. Like, yes, I need it to be cruelty free as well. Of course, I'm not saying give me a vegan product, but test away on rabbits. Of course not. Of course, I want it to be cruelty free. That's a given. But something can be cruelty free, but not vegan, still has animal products in it. It just wasn't tested on animals. That's all it means. Whereas now people completely understand the difference. They understand that cruelty free is one thing and veganism is another. So
it should be the same though. Logically, the meaning of the word.
I'm very dark, haven't I? Should I put the light on? So otherwise I'm going to disappear from you, aren't I? Where's she gone? There we go. Actually, you can see me again. The sun went dark, outside. Yeah.
So have you got any vegan friends, like personally, in your life?
No, but actually I do, but I mean, they've become vegan. Some of them have become vegan. There's 5 of my friends who've become vegan over the last 5 years, because they kind of were just watching me, I think, and it usually just takes one person, doesn't it? And they start to go, let me just try that. I think veganuary has been just fantastic in this country. I don't know how well it's caught on in other countries. I'm not entirely sure. Is it even done in other countries? I'm not entirely sure, but it's
I don't know either, actually.
I don't actually know. It's huge in the UK. I've got several friends who've signed up for veganuary. They're not vegans, but they've signed up for veganuary, and it really does, and like I said, because of these so many amazing vegan businesses now, just churning out all of these different products, and you just have this choice that I didn't have. Back in 2012 when I became vegan, there wasn't all this choice. You went to the supermarket and you maybe found 10 products that were vegan, whether you like them or not. So you kind of were forced to like that. I remember trying vegan cheese for the first time and just being horrified because I wanted to make myself a cheese toasty. And I'll put the bread on, put the cheese on, stuck it under my grill, and just sat there and watched as my bread went black.
Oh no!
But the cheese was still there. And I remember thinking, well, if there's a nuclear holocaust, now I know what's going to survive: cockroaches and vegan cheese. That's what's going to survive, really. And I remember thinking, I'd rather not have cheese than something that literally won't even melt.
Yeah.
You know, but that was the option. That was the vegan cheese. And you know, when you that no wonder so many people tried and gave up then. But now there's really no excuse to, because if you don't like one vegan cheese, that's just a brand that you didn't like. In the same way that you don't like every animal cheese, do you? There's some that you love, and some you think, oh, I can eat that, and others you think, oh my God, keep that away from me.
Yeah.
It tastes like socks. Keep it away from me. You know, it's the same
Exactly.
thing now. Now you have that variety. So absolutely, there's some vegan food that I still turn my nose up. I don't eat everything vegan. There's things I just go, yeah, that's not, yeah, I don't want to eat that again. That's awful, you know. There's things that I absolutely love and everything in between. But you now have that
The option.
variety to go out there and find what you like and what you don't like, which I just didn't have that choice before. So yeah, I think
What would you say? What would you say now is your favourite vegan-friendly thing to have?
Oh, my favorite. And this is going to sound so simple, okay? Because there's these amazing things happening, aren't they? Amazing, you know, there's so many different things that we get. But for me, it's actually very simple. It's barista oat milk.
Okay.
And my favorite one is Mama Oats. And there's another one called Pure Oaty. Those two are my favorite.
I
And
love
I don't
pure
know what
OT.
they do. I honestly don't know what they do with these two brands of oat milk. Because when you look at the ingredients, it's just flipping oat milk.
I know. There's
You
like
know, there's
nothing in
nothing
it.
in there. There's nothing else going on in there. That they might have thrown in, they usually throw in some B12, you know, just to give vegans more vitamins and stuff like that. But apart from that, there's nothing else in there apart from milk and oats. I can drink gallons of that stuff. But I had it yesterday. Yesterday I treated myself to a deliciously Ella, what was it? It was like a hot pudding. So you put it into the oven and it's gooey chocolate in the middle.
Oh,
And I
nice.
think I drank like 3/4 of a pure oat milk with it. Do you know what I
I
mean?
mean, I understand because I never used to like oat milk at all. Like, I cannot stand Oatly. I mean, I don't touch them anyway now after what they did about
Yeah,
pure
I
oat
don't. I
Oatly.
don't.
But I tried pure oaty. They were the first ones. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I understand why people like oat milk now.
Oh, I can't have anything else now. I can't have normal oat milk. Has to be barista edition, you know, because it foams up. So when I have my coffee, I can have like a nice foamy froth going on, and it just colors the tea perfectly in a way that normal oat milk doesn't. And I've tried others, you know. The new thing is pea milk, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's all
I've
right. I
tried
tried
it.
it once. It's all right, but
I've
yeah,
had it. It's nice. I can
yeah,
have it, you know, but I always go back to one of those two brands, either Pure Oat or Mama Oats, because it's just so delicious. You can just literally drink it on
yeah.
its own and you're happy, you
I'll
know.
have to see if I can try and find Mama Oats because I haven't seen it. I've had their porridges and they were
Yeah,
amazing, but I've not seen that. I didn't know they did a
they
part
do
milk,
oats. It's in a blue
so I'll
packet.
find it.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, those two brands are, and I know it's like, it sounds so simple. It's just oat milk, you know. Think of all the innovation that's going on at the moment. Over the Christmas break, I tried some of V-Bite's salmon slices, and they were really, really nice. Even my
Oh,
mother
okay.
says, like, oh, they're actually quite fishy. You know, I
Oh,
was like,
that's good
yeah,
to
yeah.
know.
So they were quite nice. So there's so much innovation, and yet therefore, but then I went and go and pick oat milk, which is a
Do you
bit
know?
like
Do you know
a bit
what? I've
boring.
actually like. I think one of the things that swayed me to actually take the plunge to actually start eating plant-based was the simple food because I fell in love with food from eating whole food stuff like in restaurants, and I had no idea that they could be so good. Like, and I find when I cook, because like you, I'm a bit lazy when it comes to cooking. I don't enjoy cooking unless it's for loads of people. So when I do cook, I do find that the simplest recipes with like minimal amounts of like food and the ingredients are the ones that I love the most. So I totally get it. Like, simple is the way forward.
I
Totally.
love it. I absolutely love it. And I even use it because it's, you know, it's thicker oat milk because it's barista style. You know, it lends itself to making like Indian rice pudding, or like Indians make a lot of puddings with milk.
Yeah.
You know, so either it's rice or they put semolina or tapioca or, you know, and I used to miss out on those when I became vegan because, you know, the milks that were out then, soy milk in particular, that was the big one before oat milk kind of took over. It just didn't come together. It didn't give the thickness and the unctuousness of pudding. So I gave up on it, but now I can make all those things again.
Yay.
You know, with barista style oat milk. So yeah, that to me has been really, you know, the thing that I look forward to is like, you know, I'll wake up in the morning and I just, you know, before I go on my walk, I'll just knock back a glass of oat milk and it's just like, right, I'm ready to tackle the day. And it's just, yeah, it's great.
So oat milk fix instead of coffee fix. I love it. So I'm curious, obviously you do a lot of activism in your book, in your, you know, as what you do for a living, but do you ever get involved in things like street activism or talks about veganism? Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I haven't got involved with street activism. It's just, you know, trying to coordinate my time. The thing is, when you've got a load of authors and you're coordinating them, making sure they're doing what they should be doing,
Yeah, of
and
course.
sticking to the plan when it comes to writing, and then I'm coordinating editors, typesetters, book designers, formatters. I've always got all these balls juggling in the air. It's very, very difficult to have the time to give myself off to go and, you know, do the activism. And, you know, that's something that I want to get more involved in, but I console myself with the fact that I'm helping those people, you know, key people in those, you know, activist fields,
Yeah,
you know, have a bigger reach by becoming a published author. Because that's the thing I always say, you know, when you become a published author, it becomes like almost like a shortcut or a byword for expert, which means it gains you more visibility. So I remember like last year in May, I gave myself a challenge that I wanted to be on 100 podcasts or shows by the end of the year. I failed, by the way. By the time as of the end of last year, I've been on 78 now. So I did a few more in December. So I
but
did
she
78 shows.
didn't do a whole year though. So I told her in a message, I
Yeah.
was like, it doesn't count because it hasn't actually been 12
You did
months.
actually say, you could say that, you know, you didn't start till May, so really your year is in May. And I thought I may be able to I do remember the words I did use back in May was by the end of 2021.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I can get away with it. But the point I made was, you know, well, there's 2 points I was making by setting myself a challenge. The first point is never set yourself a challenge that you know you can do,
Yeah.
because it's pointless. So for example, I could have done I'll get onto 50 shows by the end of the year. That I would have been able to comfortably do, and then would have been like, yay, look, I did my challenge. But your challenge always should scare you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're not really working at the highest level that you should be working. You should be prepared to fail, because the thing is, by failing, you still go further than if you gave yourself a more manageable challenge. So for example, if I gave myself a challenge of being on 50 shows, I would have taken a more a leisurely approach to it, because I would have been like, yeah, I'll do 50, and I would have done it, and I would be like, yay. But instead, because I was pushing myself to do 100, yes, I didn't reach it, but I ended up doing 78, which is a darn sight more than 50.
Yeah.
You know, so be prepared to fail, because sometimes when you fail, you actually have achieved more than when you gave yourself a manageable challenge just to say you won or you achieved it, you know. So that was the first point. And the second point was to see how many doors opened for me, because I was leading with the fact that I'm a best-selling author. And there was, you know, I had podcast hosts and radio hosts who'd never even heard of me, like literally never even heard of me. But then, you know, I led when I emailed them. It's like, oh, I'm the author of the best-selling book, The Freedom Master Plan. You can go and check it out on Amazon. And usually most of them got back to me and said, oh, that's great. Okay, so I've got a slot for such and such date. Can you do it? And there's something about, you know, if I just contacted them saying, hey, I'm an expert on such and such, I'd love to come and talk to you. I'm pretty sure most of those people, I'm sure some of them, if they were desperate for guests and were like, oh yeah, we'll get her on, I'm sure a lot of them would have been like, oh, not really sure. Everyone says they're an expert online, don't they? If you're on Facebook for any length of time, you've got experts all the time. oh, I'm an expert on Instagram. Oh, I'm an expert on social, in SEO. I'm experts everywhere. You can't move for experts, and they all can't be experts. But as soon as you write a book, there's just this, people just kind of go, oh, you've written a book on it. If you've written a book on something, you must know what you're talking about. It can't just be, smoke and mirrors. You must know what you're talking about to have actually professionally published a book and it's out there on Amazon. And because I was leading with that, I ended up on, well, I'm booked on another 15 more. They're going to be upcoming over the next few weeks and months. But yeah, it's because I'm leading with the fact that I'm an author. And that's how I feel I'm doing my vegan activism, because what I want to do is I want a world where you literally can't turn a podcast on or the TV on or something because there's a vegan on there. Do you know what I mean?
I love it.
Making you feel like, what are you doing? Change your mind. You're doing things wrong. But the way that's going to happen is they need to be seen as experts. The reason I love vegan activism, and a lot of my friends are vegan activists now because of what I do. They've got in touch with me. But what also happens is street activism is very important, and it's in the arsenal of weapons that we have to let the world know what they're doing is terrible. And neither is more important than the other. They're just different arsenals. But one of the downsides of street activism is it does play in to that terrible stereotype of the environmentalist who doesn't care about other human beings. They're just all about the environment and animals, and they're willing to put other humans at risk for animals and the environment. They're disruptive and all, that horrible stereotype.
It doesn't make sense at all to me how people can link someone harming humans with environmentalism, because we all live on the same planet.
Know that. You and I know that. So like, if someone cares enough about beings that are not even human, of course they care about humans. Yeah. You've got a very caring human being there. That's the whole point, but you and I know that. But, I remember I was, when you're online and you end up going down a rabbit hole of stuff, and I was reading something, and then I ended up on some farming website, which was like a bad idea straight away to be on a farming community website. And there was this woman who, talking about some animal activists had raided her farm. She's got a pig farm, and raided her farm, and and apparently they this is all her words, by the way, so I don't know how much of it is true, but apparently they ended up hurting some of the piglets. So she was making the point, it was like, oh, they're meant to love animals, but they ended up hurting my piglets. I'm like, well, you're going to kill your piglets at some point, so I'm kind of thinking you shouldn't really speak. But she didn't see the irony. She's in a farming community, so she's in an environment where everyone's going to agree with her. Obviously, she's in her own echo chamber there, so no one was going to actually say, well, hang on a minute, but you're going to kill them. So if they accidentally hurt someone in the Ferrari that happened, that was an accident. There's going to be no accident when it comes to what you're planning on doing to those pigs. But that's me accidentally falling into the the farming community. Everybody else in there was a farmer. So all the replies were, yes, they're idiots. They have no idea what they're talking about. They're so misinformed. And, you've heard all this stuff before. Yeah. Vegan activism, the street activism can fall into that wrongly, very wrongly, can fall into that stereotype. So my goal is to use my ability as a book coach and publisher to start getting key vegans on podcasts, on TV, on Netflix shows, just get them everywhere. So then when the street activism happens, it no longer seems like activism. It seems like, it's almost like, for example, if you get people who raided somewhere that was actively being racist, you wouldn't be like, oh, those activists, they don't know what they're doing. You'd be like, damn right, they should be going in there and doing that. How dare in 2022 is a company or an organization actively racist? Do you know what I mean? That shouldn't be allowed. Then when those people storm that place, they're not activists now. Now they become great people, what heroes they become. That's what I want our street activists to become. They should be seen as heroes for doing what they're doing. Yeah, but that's only going to happen if you start seeing key vegan figures everywhere. getting that message out so that people start to think of veganism as a liberation movement in the same way that racism is a liberation movement for people of color, that, you know, transphobia or trying to be, you know, transphobia is something that needs to be gotten rid of, because you're liberating people who don't stick to one gender or experience both genders. You know, it needs to be seen on the same level, but that's only going to happen when you start getting key figures in. I remember when the world kind of, there was a big switch when it came to tackling transphobia, and that was when, what's her name, the Jenner, I've forgotten her first name because they all start with K, so I never remember. Kim Kardashian's stepfather.
I wouldn't know. I don't have anything to do with.
He changed. Well, she now was he, and she changed, and I've forgotten her name. I think it's Caitlyn. That's it, Caitlyn Jenner. So she's called Caitlyn Jenner, and having such a key sort of, you know, celebrity, especially for that particular generation. You know, I would say the under 30s who kind of grew up with, you know, keeping up with the Kardashians and reality shows and that kind of thing. And suddenly it became this thing, and they were like, yes, absolutely. You know, if someone wants to change their gender, or they experience being both genders, or whatever they want to be addressed as, just do it. You know, just give it to them. Why would you cause problems for that person? You know, they're asking to be seen in a certain way, just see them that way. And she changed it. That's the difference. When you get a key person that does that, suddenly that consciousness that, you know, we talked about this earlier, the swell of consciousness suddenly just comes up, and we'll go, well, yeah, actually, if someone wants to change gender, why shouldn't we use whatever pronouns they want us to use? Like, why would that be an issue? But it takes key people to go into the limelight. And that is my goal, to use my business to get these key people into the limelight. So then when we have the street activism and that kind of thing going, those people are seen as heroes, because they're, to you and me, they're heroes anyway. We look at them as heroes. But sadly, the majority of the world still doesn't. They're still troublemakers. And they're treated like troublemakers by the public, by law enforcement. They should be treated as heroes.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. We'll get there.
We will.
And I admire what you're doing for the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So our last question for the day is, for those that are watching, I mean, I know you've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but for those watching that are still on the edge of going to veganism, what would be one piece of advice that you would give them to help them to the other side?
to the light side, to the great side. Yeah, just take your time. You know, I think one of the biggest issues we have is we kind of, when we get something into our head, we just want to do it. It's almost like a diet. We've all done this with diets. You know, it's like, you're going to go on diet on Monday, and then from Monday onwards, you're going to be the perfect person, and you're just going to eat only the good stuff, and you're never going to eat the bad stuff ever again. What you end up doing is eating a load of crap the weekend before to make up for it, because you're going to give up all these foods. And then obviously what happens is you do Monday really well, Tuesday you do well, Wednesday you're starting to flag, Thursday you end up having a bar of chocolate because you really needed it. And now it's like, oh my God, I failed. So then you make things even worse by ordering a pizza. You know, instead of just enjoying the chocolate, you just make things even worse. Well, it's the same thing with any kind of cause, especially with something that, you know, like veganism. I've seen people who want to become vegan, but because they can't be perfect with it, they just don't try at all. And I always say every little bit helps. I remember one of my friends telling me, he's from Yorkshire, typical Yorkshireman, being brought up on meat and 2 veg all of his life, and just the thought of giving up meat was just like, oh my God, no, I couldn't do it. But this is several years ago, he just said, well, what I'll do is I will have 2 days where I don't eat any meat. And he was expecting me to be like, well, that's not enough. And I said, well, that's great. That's still, you know, that's still less animals being killed to be on your plate. So just go with that. If that's all you can do, go with that. he ended up becoming vegan over the space of 7 years.
Awesome.
Because he didn't feel judged. It was just sort of like, you do what you can do. It's too much of a shock to your system to just suddenly go vegan. Just don't do that. Just start, if you're thinking, I would say if you really, you'd know what you want to give up first anyway. There's things that you don't really care for all that much anyway. Maybe you're not really much of an eggs person. Well, give eggs up. That's an easy one then. Get your little wins in first, because they'll make you feel good and motivate you to carry on. But if you're not really bothered, I would say give up dairy first and see what, or you don't even have to give up dairy, just give up one thing. So maybe you're not really all that fussed about milk. And you think, well, I only have a drop of milk in my tea. I'll try oat milk, or I'll try soy milk. I'll see how I get on with that. But you really love cheese. Well, stick with cheese for now. It's no big deal. And then once you've done the oat milk, then you can go, well, actually, there's a load of vegan cheeses now. Let me just go and I'll treat myself to a vegan cheese board and see if there's any of those I like. You might surprise yourself. You might find one or two that you really like. And now you're closer to being able to give up the dairy cheeses. But you just do things slowly. It wasn't overnight for me. And there's still things in my house that are not vegan. I've still got shoes from over 10 years ago. I'm not a shoe person, which is strange as a woman, I know. But,
Me neither.
I
would live
buy shoes
barefoot if I could.
I know, I'm the sort of person that buys shoes for comfort, and then I use them until they literally fall apart.
Yeah, so
I don't have many shoes. I've still got shoes from before I was a vegan that are made from leather. I'm not going to throw those out. Some purists will tell me that I'm wrong. They will say, well, no, if you're a vegan, you shouldn't be wearing them. So, but I bought them before I became vegan. And from my point of view, I think it's more insulting to the animal that died, throwing out something that's perfectly usable. They're already dead now. You already bought it before you became vegan. It's now more respectful to do it justice and wear it until it falls apart, But then some purists will say, no, you should throw that out. I also say, just do what you can. Every little bit counts. I remember I used to be a smoker, and I used to have real difficulty, giving up smoking. Because again, I would do that, play mind tricks with myself. On Monday, I'm going to give up completely and I'm never going to smoke again. That kind of stuff I used to do. I remember the thing that really helped me give up was I read this article that said, every time you have one cigarette, you are shaving off around about 4 minutes of your life. So every one cigarette that you don't have, you're gaining 4 minutes of your life. As soon as I was like, I can do that. Because now, instead of just giving up everything, like, oh my God, just going cold turkey and cigarettes, now I started to look at, well, which ones do I really need and which ones do I really not need? And then I realized that the one first thing in the morning, you don't even enjoy that. It's disgusting. You've just got up, your mouth is all, you haven't even brushed your teeth. It's horrible. It's a horrible cigarette. So I thought, I can give that one up. I can wait until I've had my breakfast, and then I can have, that was usually my second cig. That became my first cigarette, And I started to go through my day and just take out, and then make myself feel good. It's like, oh, that's extra 4 minutes of my life that I got back there. And I started to cut down slowly that way until it got to the point where I just didn't want to do it at all. I quite liked all the minutes of my life, and I didn't want to give up any of them. So, but see how that worked for me. Whereas if I'd done the whole, oh, you've just got to give up, it wouldn't have happened. And then I would have ended up smoking more to make up for the fact that I starved myself for a few days. It just doesn't work. So just take your time, start slowly becoming more plant-based, do your diet first, and then slowly start looking at things like toiletries, makeup, whatever else you use, but just do it slowly. And whatever you do, don't do like a purge. Don't like, oh my God, I need to now get rid of everything animal related in my house. It's not going to work. Slowly work your way to it.
Some good advice. I agree. I did transition too. I mean, I had some purges, but because like for me, like you say, you still got leather. For me, I just can't. Because to me, it's gross. I've always been like that, pretty much. So, but I have, everyone's different. Like
everyone's different, and you've got to do it in your own pace. Don't feel just be, give yourself those little wins. If you, instead of thinking about what you haven't been able to do, because I always get that. When people always tell me, when I tell them I'm vegan, they'll be like, oh, I can't do that. I can't give up cheese, or I can't give up eggs. Yeah. And I always go, well, that's nice. Why are you telling me what you can't do? It's a bit like I'll say if you meet somebody for the first time and, you tell them, oh, so what do you do for a living? And they go, well, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer. At some point, you're going to say, wouldn't it be easy if you can just tell me what you do instead of the things that you don't do? So I'm not interested in hearing about why you're not a vegan or what you can't. Tell me what you can do.
Yeah.
What can you do? So, like, if that means you can just, from now on, you're going to make sure all of your makeup is not only cruelty free, it's also vegan. Great. If you want to carry on eating animal products for now because you can't see yourself not eating them, fine. But what can you do? Can you start doing that with your makeup, with your toiletries? Are there other things in your life that you can look at? Just start thinking about what you can do, because every little bit really does count.
Yeah,
and when
it
you
does.
think in terms of every little bit, then you take the pressure off yourself. If you don't do that, then now you're focusing on the bad stuff and what you can't do. That's not sustainable. We're pleasure seekers. Ultimately, all human beings are pleasure seekers. So we want to feel good. And if you're concentrating on what you're not being able to do, if you're concentrating on the fact that you can't give up eggs, that's not going to make you feel great about yourself. So guess what? Now you're going to eat more eggs, and now you're going to probably eat more meat and more milk and everything. So that's not, instead focus, feel good. Look at your makeup and go, that's all cruelty free and completely vegan. No animals died for that. That makes me feel good. Hopefully that will then spur you on to start adding more changes. That's a much easier and nicer way of doing things.
Yeah, definitely. Inspiration is a powerful thing. All it takes is one thing. Like, I'm a coach myself too, and like the biggest thing is just giving myself permission to go at my own pace. And
Exactly.
like, often when I'm totally unmotivated for anything, I just have to take one tiny little action. And when I've had that dopamine hit after completing it, I'm like, oh, I can do something else now. Let's go do that. Let's go do this.
Exactly.
And like, it's such a tiny thing, but it really does make such a big impact.
It really does. Little wins, little mini wins. They are. If you look at anybody who's successful at anything, they had this one big goal. So in this case, I want to be vegan, for example. But then it's been broken down into so many tiny little goals, and each of those little goals they celebrated and felt good about it. That's how you motivate yourself. If you look at anybody who's successful at anything, in business and life, they chop down their big goal into lots of mini goals. And they celebrated along the way. That's how you keep yourself going. Otherwise, it's a bit like you just feel like you've got this huge mountain to climb, and you're right in the beginning of your journey, and it's just daunting.
Yeah, definitely is. Right, so thank you so much. That's all we've got time for. Before we say goodbye, if there is anyone in the audience that would like to personally get in touch with you, how can they get a hold of you? And where can they get your book from too?
The book is available on Amazon, so wherever you are in the world, you can find it. It's called The Freedom Master Plan. You can also go to my website, letstellyourstory.com. That's the name of my publishing company, Let's Tell Your Story, because I just think, well, everyone has a great story. They say everyone has a book in them, so everyone's got a great story. But definitely whenever I'm speaking to vegans, they have fantastic stories, of how they got to doing what they're doing. So I like, it's a story, let's get the true story out. So you can go there, and there's even links there where you can get the first chapter of my book for free. So if you want to have a read of it first before you go and buy it, that's absolutely fine as well. And yeah, you can contact me on social media. I mean, with a surname like mine, I'm the only one on the planet. No, I really am. There is no other Mitali Depakaisis on Facebook or Instagram. So you'll find me. If you put that name in, you'll find me.
Which social medias are you on? Facebook, Instagram anymore?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
I haven't managed to get myself on TikTok yet. I'm not really sure I've got the energy to be dancing away or anything like that. So, I've been told that I should, and I'm like, oh God, what yet another social media network that I need to be on. So I'm holding off on the others, but I'm on the 4 major ones. So you can just come and find me. If you just put my name in with that surname, you should be able to find me, or you just put Mitali Book Pro, and you can usually find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. It's been lovely chatting to you. I've really enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it too. We've covered a lot, haven't we?
We have, yeah. It's great. Awesome,
Thank
Mitali.
you.
You're so welcome. And thank you, viewers, for watching. And I realise now I forgot to intro myself. So I'm Lula, you might have guessed that from Mitali saying my name a couple of times. I am the founder of Vegan Bloomers, which is a Facebook community. And obviously here where we are is to inspire, connect and learn is my mission, or our mission. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you've liked it, please do give us a thumbs up and subscribe as well so you don't miss any. Try to keep it every Sunday, but it's not always possible. So yeah, subscribe and you won't miss any of them. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you again. And thank you again, Mitali.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Much love, everyone.